Today we're going to talk about as seen on TV products. Now we've all seen them. They're all over the place. And most inventors, when they start out in this business, should actually start out by inventing as seen on TV products. It represents the lowest risk way to get into inventing and the quickest trip to the bank. In fact, if you look at it in comparison to normal retail products, you can actually start making revenue in terms of royalty on an as seen on TV product within about 3 months. In a normal brick and mortar product, that's going to look more like 18 to 24 months. As seen on TV products fall into different categories. Before we start getting into the different categories of products, let's talk a little bit about how it all came to be. Modern infomercials started in 1984 with the passage of the Cable Franchise Policy and Communications Act. So a few people used that change in policy to ask the stations to start running commercials for products in the middle of the night when the airwaves weren't being used anyway. The first infomercials were all shown between 2 and 6 a.m. Now, of course, they're shown more in the mornings, and especially on Saturdays. To qualify as an infomercial itself, the spot has to be over 28 minutes in length. That's what we call a long form. A short form, which is really more about as seen on TV products, is normally between 60 and 90 seconds. So when we talk about these things, we're actually talking about what we call the direct response industry. And basically the direct response industry means you put something on television that motivates someone to get off their couch and pick up a telephone to purchase. And in that process, we basically have two camps. We have what we call live format and tape format. In live format, obviously that's live shopping. QVC, HSN, and Evine are the three main companies in the U.S. QVC is the largest with about $8 billion a year. HSN has about $3 billion a year, and Evine does about $500 million a year. These are big shopping channels. And when you tune in at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're trying to sell you a blender, they are really there at 3 o'clock in the morning. It is live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And many of them have more than one channel. So that's a live format. Everything else you see on television trying to sell you a product is called tape format. Those things are pre-recorded and they're played over and over and over again. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, when Joe Fowler's trying to sell you a new wave oven, Joe's not actually there. In the tape format options, we have two classifications. We have infomercials, which are 28 minutes or longer. They're going to sell 100% of their product on television. Those products are not available in stores. They're only available on those infomercials. In contrast to that, we have the as seen on TV or short form products. Short form products are sold predominantly in stores, although they didn't used to be. And those spots are generally 60 to 90 seconds long, and they're going to air anytime during the day. We're concentrating this on inventing short form products. With that in mind, let's take a look at a few things we should really know about before we dive into this area. First of all, the estimated sales price. And you have no idea what the sales price of your product is. What you do know is that the sales price of most short form products on television is between $10 and $20. So you know that if you're building something with a block of gold, you're not going to be able to sell it for 10 bucks. It's not going to work. The estimated sales price of the product you're inventing needs to be about 5 times the manufacturing cost. So we're looking at that backwards. If I sell it for $10, that means I have to manufacture it for $2. Now, as you can see, that's not going to work in a lot of cases. And in fact, the pricing structure is what keeps a lot of products out of the as seen on TV market. You don't know for a fact what your product would sell for, and you don't know for a fact what it would manufacture for. But you have to, as you're developing it, keep in mind that that's the bar it's going to have to hit. 85% of As Seen on TV product sales happen in stores. So your product must be suitable for retail placement. You can't sell an As Seen on TV product that's 10 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It's not going to work. If you use a real As Seen on TV company, you can license with just a homemade prototype of your invention. There are a handful of As Seen on TV product companies in the country that license products directly from inventors, and they do it based solely on just a homemade prototype. If an As Seen on TV company, quote unquote, starts asking you for money, they're not really an As Seen on TV company. They're one part of a long process. Real As Seen on TV companies like Telebrands or Idea Village or All Star, they will never ask you for money. That's how you know you're with a real As Seen on TV company. The royalties on an As Seen on TV product are lower than normal retail. That is just an absolute fact. They range from about 1% to 3%, depending on the quality of the invention. Just like with all product inventing, it depends on the quality of the invention. How much work did you do in creating this product and making it as successful as you could for the consumer? Does it solve a big enough problem? This is really important because that's the big thing that most inventors say. Well, why should I take 2% royalties on a product? Well, because the volume of sales for an As Seen on TV product can be up to 5 times that of a normal product. While the royalties may be lower, the volume is generally going to be higher. So what makes a good As Seen on TV product? This is really important for us as inventors to understand what the formula is. And one of the reasons that I always point new inventors to doing As Seen on TV products is because it's the closest kind of product inventing to a formula. On TV products, we see that there are a series of criteria that the product has to meet. If it doesn't meet these criteria, then it's not going to work. And so it's important that when you're inventing a retail product for As Seen on TV, that you make sure it fits as closely as you can to each one of these criteria. Now, some of these criteria are more important than others, and if your product works well in some and not so well in others, you can often get away with that. But there's a few that you just can't skimp on. So your product either works in them or it doesn't. That's important to understand. So let's take a look at them. If your product doesn't have a great demonstration, if you can't show physically what your product does, it's going to be very difficult to sell it in this format. It also has to be intuitive. If we make a 60-second spot, we've got about 40 seconds to sell that product. The beginning of the spot has to show the problem, and the end of the spot has to tell you how to purchase it. So that little piece in the middle is where we have to tell the story. That's important because the product needs to be intuitive. I simply don't have time to explain what it is and how it works. I need the consumer to be able to watch it and pick it up right away. Like all products, it needs to solve a problem. Products are simply wrappers for solutions. That's all they are. So the product has to solve a problem the consumer is having, because basically what we're saying with our product is, if you purchase it, we're going to take away the pain you're experiencing. That's the motivation for the consumer to get up off the couch and act. The high perceived value. A consumer product has to have perceived value. It's one of the intrinsic values to developing a product. And that means that if I'm telling you that I'll sell it to you for $10, in your mind, you have to feel it's worth far more than $10. Mass consumer appeal. Millions of people need the same solution. Remember, we're putting this on television where millions and millions of people can see it. So we need to apply this solution to millions of people who are having the same problem. It needs to be unique. Products sold in short formats cannot be also sold in stores. The consumer needs to understand that this is the only way they're going to get this product. It'll be very difficult if I can go to Walmart and buy what you're offering to make a product work in this format. If I can't get it anywhere else, then I'll get it when I see it on television, or I'll get it when I see it in stores. It needs to have a strong benefit claim in the product. And if you go to YouTube and you watch these As Seen on TV commercials, you'll see that they have a very calculated process in the commercial. And part of that is a set of benefit claims. You need to be able to make very specific claims. This product will do this. And the thing it will do needs to have good value to the consumer you want to purchase. A wow factor. Now, wow factor is probably one of the biggest parts of these products. It's got to be something that makes the viewer look at it and go, wow. These products always do better when you have a strong wow factor. And that wow is driven by the demonstrability of the product. When I put that product on television and I look at it and go, okay, it's got to have that wow factor, that's all about the demonstration that I came up with really early on in the process. Most products work well between $10 and $20. There are exceptions to that where products in these short formats will sell higher. But as a general rule, you're going to want to keep your manufactured sellable price between $10 and $20. Now, you don't have any idea how much yours will be. And the As Seen on TV companies are absolutely marvelous at driving efficiency into manufacturing. But like I said before, if you're selling a brick of gold, you know you're not going to do it for $10. And the manufactured cost needs to be about 5 times the sale price. So again, if your product sells for $9.95, then your manufactured and shipped cost of that product needs to be around $2. It's not hard to look at something and understand whether you could make it for $2. Because these 10 areas are so specific to these kinds of products, and we couldn't do this for something you were creating for Walmart or Target, but we can do it for something in the short form. Doesn't work for long form, doesn't work for live television, but it does work for these kinds of products. I've broken these down into a little matrix. This is pretty simple. If you're 100% honest with yourself, if you go through and you score your idea between 1 and 10 for each one of these categories, you'll see very quickly whether or not your product even stands a chance. Use something similar to this to do the same thing for each one of the ideas that you have for As Seen on TV products. It's pretty simple. If your overall score is above 50, then you probably have something worth looking into. If your overall score is a 20, then it's probably not worth chasing. It's the honor system. You have to be honest with yourself. You also may want to turn around and show your invention to a family member or a friend and have them score it so that you take your emotion out of the process. Either way, come up with a product, make sure it fits these categories, score it out a few times so that you can kind of dial it in, really apply these principles, and then contact one of the 7 or 8 companies in the industry who license directly from inventors. Do not pay people to present these for you. There's no need. These companies all have direct access where you can submit the product on their website or call them up. They're not hard to get a hold of, and they'll always listen to you when you say, hey, I've got a product. Doesn't mean that the product will work, but they will definitely listen. And if the product does work, if you've done your job and you've really taken into account these areas, then they're really going to listen because their machine is insatiable. They have to constantly be putting new products in it. And you'll develop a relationship, you'll develop a reputation with these companies as someone who's really taken the time to understand how these products work and what goes into them. And then you'll have a good, strong pipe to be able to run one idea after another through your process. It's important to understand it's your process, And if you want to license a product to an As Seen on TV company, take the time to make it a great product.